Alright, class, have you all read through the Word document on quantitative research methods and looked at the PowerPoint document about qualitative methods?
Yes.
Dude, was that due today?
I'm not sure. Okay, from your reading and watching, what type of study do you think you would prefer?
Me, me, pick me. I would prefer to work with the quantitative method.
Yeah, but, like for education, quantitative research doesn't work for interactions, like within a school environment.
Does too.
Does not.
Does too.
Does not.
I think you both might be right.
Huh?
Like what? Just as we are having a heated debate here, from the turn of the 20th century up until the end of the Second World War, researchers were fighting and competing with each other over which research paradigm to use. Donald Shon, when describing the situation in 1995, said that introducing new scholarship into schools became an epistemological battle, a battle of snails. Ew. As I was saying, a battle of snails proceeding so slowly that you have to look very carefully in order to see it going on. It wasn't until the 60s that people started experimenting with using both paradigms, and sometimes at the same time. So they were mixing their research methods? Yes, that's right. It became a very popular thing to do in the 1980s and 90s.
Why would you want to mix methods?
Like, yeah, how does that work?
Well, researchers began to understand that both paradigms had strengths and weaknesses, and they also found that using both methods could give more options and a stronger case for whatever findings their research came up with. What a good idea! So if you did a study using quantitative data collecting, like a survey, and then a qualitative investigation, like a case study, you could present educators a theory that has been explored to the satisfaction of both camps. That's right, and it also gives a researcher a lot more choices in regards to research questions that can be explored and the techniques that they can use to explore them.
Like, give us some examples of how that might work. I'm just like a little confused.
Okay, let me think. One type of mixed methods design is called triangulation. The researcher uses both a quantitative study and a qualitative study, and then compares the results of both to see if the findings validate each other.
Oh, that sounds cool.
Is there any other way to mix methods?
Yes, you can do explanatory research. That's where you conduct a quantitative study and then use qualitative research to define and refine the findings of the quantitative study.
Yeah, awesome sauce.
Yes, well, there's also an exploratory design which reverses the process. It uses qualitative data to find out where and how to collect quantitative data. That sounds very useful, but it made me think, how can researchers use mixed methods when the philosophical justifications for each paradigm are so different? That's a very good question. It's a question that was addressed by Green and Caricelli, a couple of authors who published in 2003, and they argue that paradigms are social constructions, and therefore they're not unchangeable and definitely not bound to any specific set of research methods or techniques.
I am not comfortable with that particular idea.
Well, if all truth is relative, then maybe.
I think it's a very useful idea. There are 4 schools of thought researchers have when mixing paradigms, when doing research and mixing research methods. One is the dialectic stance. If you have a dialectic stance, you believe that paradigms matter and that all have useful ways of discovering truth. To them, mixed methods research leads to better understandings. Groovy, man. Then there's the new paradigm group, who think that paradigms are important to consider when conducting research, but that newer paradigms are better because they invite and encourage pluralism in methods and perspectives.
Truth is truth. You can't have two truths.
I don't know, man. Truth seems relative to me.
Shush! I want to hear more about mixing paradigms. Well, then you have the pragmatics, who think paradigms don't really matter much when considering mixing methods. What matters is being able to use whatever methods best answer the research question. A sort of whatever works approach.
Sounds messy to me.
And lastly, you have context-driven researchers, who see conceptual congruence when studying phenomenon as more important than paradigms.
Well, but how do we make sure that what we do is, scientific, with all this mixing and whatnot?
Yes, it all seems a bit wishy-washy to me.
Well, there should be some way to make sure that whatever way we mix our methods, our findings will be taken seriously. Well, if you look in your textbooks, you'll see that Robson, in 2011, came up with a scientific attitude to use when conducting research, which involves 3 different things to think about. And they are: first, we must work systematically by giving serious thought to what we're doing and how or why we're doing it. In particular, it's important to be explicit about what you'll be observing, the circumstances of your observations, and the role you play in making them. Secondly, we must work skeptically to make sure to subject our ideas to possible disconfirmations and to be open to scrutiny by yourself and by other researchers. And finally, we must work ethically, using a code of conduct that ensures that everyone involved in the research has their interests and concerns safeguarded. I like the idea of working with a scientific attitude.
I think it will take me some time to get used to the idea of mixing methods, but I can see the value in it.
It's all groovy, man. Mix things up. You'll like it, I promise.
Well, that's all the time we have for this discussion. So, let's get busy working on our annotated bibliography.
Oh man.
Oh, just a bit of TV first for a study break. Or maybe lunch. I'm starving.